What percentage of your portfolio is in Bitcoin? JP Morgan thinks it should be 1%, but is 1% too high or too low? Let's talk about it. Welcome aboard the Bitcoin Express. My name is Chase. Let's get to it. In 2017, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, stated that he would fire any employee trading Bitcoin for being, quote, stupid. He claimed that Bitcoin was a fraud and that eventually it will blow up. But fast forward to the present, and JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon's stance on Bitcoin has changed. In 2020, JP Morgan stated that gold will suffer for years because of Bitcoin. And because of this, the Bitcoin price could rise to $146,000 long term. And right now I want to pause and say that in the crypto space, we often look at JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon and we take their statements from 2017 and we hold it against them. But instead, we should be applauding JP Morgan because one of the most powerful traits a person can have is the ability to admit that they're wrong and change their mind. And that is exactly what Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan has done. Now here we are in 2021 and JP Morgan sent out a note to clients endorsing a 1% allocation to Bitcoin as a hedge, as Bitcoin would serve as a hedge against fluctuations in traditional asset classes such as stocks, bonds, and commodities. And why 1%? What is this 1% all about? The reason why JP Morgan endorses a 1% allocation is because Bitcoin has asymmetric risk. What this means is that you could put in a small amount into Bitcoin, you might lose it all, but on the upside, it can 5x or 10x over the long term. But not many things have asymmetric risk. If we look at a company such as Apple, which is clearly a great company, and everyone can almost agree that it is a good long-term investment, it doesn't have asymmetric risk. Right now, the market cap of Apple is $2 trillion. So to double your money, a 2x in Apple, you will need the market cap to go from 2 trillion to 4 trillion, which is not very likely. And even if it does happen at max, it'll be a 2x. So when we look at something like Bitcoin, a 2x is nothing. It is very small. As we have seen, Bitcoin multiplies by 5, 10, 100x over these years. But now this asymmetric risk reward is slowly declining as the price of Bitcoin has increased. Even right now, if we go from a Bitcoin of 50,000 to 100,000, which is a big gain, it's only a 2x. However, in the Bitcoin space, even though we're sitting now at a Bitcoin at around $50,000, in the long term, there is still room for a 5 to 10x. And while in the crypto space, that doesn't sound like anything special, we have coins out here that do 5x in a week. The thing is, these rates blow out the rates of traditional markets any day. In these traditional portfolios, what they're going for is 7% a year, maybe 10% a year. If they get 30% a year, they have a huge party, like it's a big deal. But in the crypto space, if you're only getting 10% a year, you're doing it wrong. And the whole point of 1% is it is 1% to something that you actually don't believe in. That is the whole concept behind 1%. I'm gonna put in 1%. I don't know what this thing is. I might lose all the money, but if it does well, it will do very well. When you actually do believe in something, and in this case, Bitcoin, you don't put in 1%. You start increasing that 3%, 5%, 10%, and so on. So this is literally what it means when you say 1%. I don't believe in this, but I'm gonna put in 1%. That's how much money I can afford to lose. Remember that. When we're talking about this 1%, very important, money that you do not need, that you can afford to lose. And JP Morgan is no pioneer. They're not doing anything special here, endorsing a 1% allocation. This is actually years late. 1% is what people should have been doing years ago. Remember, it's 1% to something that you actually don't believe in, which is why you keep it at 1%. And over this last year, we have seen that Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller, Tesla, MicroStrategy, BNY Mellon have all entered the crypto space. So JP Morgan is, like I said, not a pioneer here. They're just pretty much copying what's going on in the rest of the financial world. And as mentioned, 1%, you don't believe in it. When you start to believe in it, it increases. And that is why ARK Investment Management's Cathie Wood observed that if all corporations were to put 10% of their cash into Bitcoin, it would add $200,000 to the asset's price. So we can see the believers, they're not putting in 1%, they're putting in 5, 10%, Of course, we're going to have the exceptions here of MicroStrategy pretty much putting in all of their money into Bitcoin. But 1%, this is what should have been done years ago because it is the risk. I don't want to invest in this thing. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a bubble, it's a scam. And that is the very reason why I'm putting in 1%. Now let's look at Kevin O'Leary, Shark Tank's Mr. Wonderful. He has been back and forth with Bitcoin, but he has reversed his stance on Bitcoin and says crypto is here to stay and invests 3% of his portfolio into crypto. And as I just mentioned, 1% is for the people that actually don't believe in Bitcoin. Once you start upping it 2, 3, 4%, this is for people that do believe in Bitcoin. In 2013, he said it was here to stay. Then in 2019, 2020, he said it's garbage, it's useless. But then he was on a podcast with Anthony Pompliano this past year, and he said that he would like to get into Bitcoin, maybe up to 5%, but he's waiting for the regulator. He wants a Bitcoin ETF on the United States Stock Exchange. Once he has that regulation, he's ready to go. He needs that liquidity. He needs the comfort knowing that there aren't going to be any problems. So Kevin O'Leary stated, I actually think that digital currencies are here to stay. Most people that are willing to hold them, including institutions over the last 90 days, are willing to deal with the volatility. And now this is where it gets very interesting. He stated, I am fascinated, I am investing, I'm holding a 3% weighting in it between Ethereum and Bitcoin. The volatility sickens me, but I'm getting used to it. What is very interesting here is that we already know the 1% argument for Bitcoin. This is an old argument. Like I said, it's been here for years. Now it's becoming mainstream. The new argument that we're going to start having is Ethereum, 1% into Ethereum. Institutions are starting to look at Ethereum, and we can see that with Grayscale, it is their second largest holding. So I'm very curious to see how this plays out. And a perfect example is when we look at Ethereum, the whole point is it is not obvious because there are high gas fees. They're having trouble scaling, which is why the 1% argument makes sense, right? Again, 1% means that you actually don't really believe in it. That's the whole point why it's 1%. If you did believe in it, it would be much more. And again, over here, we have to respect Kevin O'Leary. There's a reason why he is Mr. Wonderful, because he changed his mind. He said, quote, correct, I change when facts change. And what were these facts that changed? They are, quote, the Canadian, Swiss, and many other regulators have done a 180 on Bitcoin. This is a game changer for many investors, including me. And what he was referring to here is that there actually now is an ETF on the Canadian Stock Exchange. And for Kevin O'Leary, that is good enough. But if you look across the space, there are too many institutions, too many big players involved that Bitcoin is not going to be banned, which was one of the worries that Kevin O'Leary had. And I did make a video on why the United States will not ban Bitcoin. However, they will regulate it. And regulation is not a bad thing, especially at the institutional level. This provides comfort and liquidity to the markets. And what's mind-boggling is that someone like Peter Schiff has not even put in 1% of his money into Bitcoin. Peter Schiff is famous for being a huge critic of Bitcoin. And of course, Peter Schiff is clearly a smart man. He is a huge gold bug, and he is so against Bitcoin. And the reason is because his pride always wants to win, right? He does not want to be wrong. And this is the whole point of hating on Bitcoin. That is when you put in 1%. If Peter Schiff actually did like Bitcoin, he would be putting in 5, 10, 15, 20%. But because he hates Bitcoin so much, this is the very reason why he should have 1%. It's a different story if you're putting in 1% to something that is a brand new project that's been out for a year. Fine, why would I put in even a penny into that project? But when you're looking at something like Bitcoin, which has been around for 12 years and has shown a very good track record, it would be at that point, I would think, for someone like Peter Schiff, where they would let their pride go and they would put in 1% and just see how it plays out. But some people in this world would rather always be right instead of winning. But I want to know what you guys think. Is 1% too much or too little? Because 1% for some of you guys might be $1,000, and if you lose $1,000, you're okay. But for some of you listening, 1% might be $100, and if you lose $100, you may have a hard time sleeping at night. So comment below what you think the perfect portfolio is. Is there Bitcoin? What percentage? Is there Ethereum? Other altcoins? Does it have gold, silver, other precious metals, real estate, stocks? I want to know. So put that down below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.